so Nintendo Switch. Carmine.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nintendo Switch. Tell us about your Nintendo Switch.
I got a Nintendo Switch.
He got a Nintendo Switch.
Hey, I'm going to get. Now, for the video viewers, you can see that is legitimately a Nintendo Switch. And I'm not lying.
Knockoff from China.
It is not.
It's the Nintendo Swatch.
No, I got it as an early birthday gift from some friends of mine. You know who you are, and you know how grateful I am to you guys. I'm not going to call them out because everybody's going to try and hit them up for Switches now. But they know who they are. I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Awesome console.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I've had it for about 24 hours now. It was a big surprise. Pretty cool. Kind of lives up to the hype. Very easy to use. Opening up, getting going, very quick. No really giant, huge updates. UI is very simplistic. Nothing crazy. Not like an Xbox UI. Shots fired.
What?
But I got Mario Kart. Been playing a little bit of Shovel Knight. Really cool. The controllers, like you held some of the controllers, guys. So it was like, little small kind of a thing. You guys, what were some of your impressions of it, just from what you played?
Very small, too small.
And you held it, John, so you can kind of get your impressions.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrible when they're put together, but looking at it, when you can play the 2-player, you flip them off. And
when you play it sideways, it's just
it's
really
very
crampy.
close together.
Yeah, I would say for those that know, it's when you have them together, it's not any wider, I would say, than a NES controller, an NES
it's
controller.
It's smaller than a NES controller.
You think so?
Hands down.
You think so? I mean, that's pretty tight.
Because it's like really close. Like, just looking at this here real quick.
He's pulling it out for those I can't see.
Yeah, those I can't see. But I have the right Joy-Con, and the thumbstick is super close to the actual buttons.
Oh, well, looking at it like this.
Exactly.
I was talking about when they were together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, when they're together like that.
Yeah, but
it's more similar to controller.
That one's very small.
But like when you just take it and you're just playing with like the one Joy-Con, it's just very, very tight. Like it's very, very close together.
Yeah, and we were talking
about
it.
Like me and Jonah were playing, and it was fine.
And I won.
Yeah, fine. You didn't win.
Be you.
You weren't first.
Okay.
You won no trophies.
Right.
So we're both losers.
Yeah.
Anyway. But so yeah, I really like it so far. Like I said, 24 hours in. It excites me to see what else what the system can do. There's a lot coming out for it. Obviously, Splatoon, Mario, all the stuff that we've been talking about.
Arms,
which I'm not going to get.
No. Yeah, I'm not.
No.
It's direct coming out.
Not really excited for that.
Probably get Splatoon. Next game that I want to get, maybe Zelda eventually. See what all the hype is about.
The hype is big.
But anyway, leads us to our second topic. Actually, it was brought. We actually asked our Facebook group online, at the Cartridge Blast Facebook group, asked some questions and got some requests for some topics. One of the topics being from my good buddy Jorge, friend of the show. He actually hosts the In Orbit podcast for Destiny viewers. His question pretty much was, or one of his questions that he actually offered up, was is the Nintendo Switch living up to the hype pretty much? Like, is it something that's going to be here to stay, or do you think it's going to just be a fad and then move away?
Well, I mean, right now, looking at it,
yeah,
and actually getting to hold it for the first time today,
yeah,
I think it feels awesome, but how long until something kind of mimics it, replaces it?
Yeah, you're saying like Sony or Microsoft?
Sony, yeah. I mean, you have PSP and then you have Vita, which is smaller.
Handhelds, yep.
Yeah, but what happens if Sony releases something like a PSP 2?
Yeah.
Which can do better graphics.
I do the same exact thing pretty much.
Pretty much, does. Yeah. Because from what I understand, there's Sony has patents already that sort of is close to that. So they technically can do something like that.
I think it's going to come down to power. Again, because it's going to... Sony, if they do decide to make a handheld like the Switch, it's going to come down to whether or not they want to do just stay in the home console space, worry about the actual power of the console, keep coming out with AAA awesome games, or go the right way of the Switch. Yeah. Like, I don't foresee, and they're crazy enough to do it. Like, I don't foresee Sony going and being like, we're going to have a PS4 and a PSP portable. We're going to keep splitting the actual studios to make different games for different things. They tried it with the PSP. They tried it with the Vita. A lot of the success of the PSP, too, was the ability to actually mod and actually kind of jailbreak the game to add a bunch of other games on it. And that was why it was really popular for a long time, even in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I just like it's coming down to a time now where you have to really focus in on one thing. And I think a lot of that has to be decided ahead of time. It can't just be, all right, we're going to stick with the PS4, PS5, and then we're going to have another PS Portable.
Right.
And then I just don't see them being able to split their focus.
Yeah.
And being successful. One will fall.
And actually, when you say that, I'm surprised because now we have the Nintendo 2DS XL coming out.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't tried to bring all their handhelds together. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like do the 3DS into. But I'm sure there's going to be an adapter somewhere.
I was under the impression that they were going to do that with the Switch. That there was like a console and a handheld. But
it makes sense.
Yeah, but it looks like they're going to keep going with the DS handheld system line.
I feel like they're going to do this, the XL, the 2DS XL, and then that's it. I think then they're going to start incorporating it into the Switch itself, which would make sense. I mean, you look at how, with the systems made, handheld or big systems, they make their money. Some systems actually, like the PS2, I think there was someone was saying recently that Sony took a big cut every system that went off. Like they lost like $200 every system, and they basically make the games off of the publishing fees they charge.
Yep.
Off every game. Yeah, off every game. So it would make more sense for them to kind of incorporate everything into one system.
I agree.
And then that way they make more money for every system. They don't have to charge $600 for a system. They can charge maybe $250. Still make some money off of it because they're smaller parts. Depends on where the graphics card prices are at the time. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, like Sony, I can see them doing that.
Yeah, and I think they, if you look at recent history with Nintendo, Sony has copied a lot of what Nintendo has done. If you look at it, they've done the whole PlayStation Move thing, which is pretty much like a variant of what the Wii remotes were. The first thing they really jumped into above all the other console holders were pretty much what Morpheus was. I'm sorry, Project Morpheus, PlayStation VR.
Right, I was like Morpheus.
Yeah, that was the code name.
Right.
But yeah, so I think they absolutely could do it, and you're right too. Like they do have the patents already for something that kind of looks like what the Switch is, so it's very possible. Mm-hmm. But I do think that if you're going to do what the Switch does, you have to commit to it as your main console.
Yeah,
I don't think it works where you have two separate consoles and let's see which one is more popular, and then break your studios off, or have certain studios do games for this one, certain studios do games for this one. And what Nintendo did, even back in the Wii U and when the 3DS was really popular, is that they pretty much shut down certain studios, or they compiled all their studios so that the mobile gaming, well, I say mobile gaming, like the 3DS game studios and the console game studios pretty much merged into one. Right. So they have everybody working on pretty much one system or one batch of IPs.
Yeah.
So I think if they're going to do it, they have to focus on it, and they're going to have to pretty much decide on whether or not, if they do the handheld. I mean, maybe they can get 4K gaming on a handheld or output it to TV in 4K. But I feel like if they do that, then they're going to be giving up high definition gaming to Xbox.
I don't think that they're going to make their next home console portable, just because Sony's focused so much on cinematic experiences.
I agree.
Like God of War and Last of Us, Uncharted. Yep. Horizon even has
was great. Yep.
Their environments just really beautiful, and it's meant to be seen on the big screen.
Yeah. So
I think that if they do have like a portable console, it'll be like
something separate.
Yes, it's not going to be like the Switch, and maybe they will have something like the Switch as a handheld, but they'll also have a home console.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll be a Switch killer, or do you think people won't care at the time? Like, I don't think
the Nintendo consoles will ever be killed, just because it has such a really intense fan base for their games.
It's a first party. It's all the IPs that they have.
Once they start rolling out
the test of time.
Yeah. Once they start rolling out their first party games that really take advantage of the Switch, the Switch is really going to start heating up.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where it's going to find its footing.
And the crazy thing is, especially with the Switch, they're in a good place right now. Primarily because they could just keep porting games and adapting them. Like they can port Smash Brothers and add more features in or add more characters in, and people are going to go and buy that because it's on the Switch. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the interesting side. You're still going to have Virtual Console that hasn't been announced or anything like that yet. Again, to answer the original question, I don't think the Switch is going anywhere. Like I said, just playing with it for the 24 hours, it is very impressive that it works as well as a handheld as it does as a home console game.
Yeah.
Like your home console system. You drop it in, you're playing on your TV within a second. You know what I mean? It's just that easy to switch between everything.
Do you think do you think this is where other systems are going to go now? I mean, this you're talking about the cinematic everything, but if you have a Sony
handheld
that can do both, that can do, you plug it into this, does 4K on whatever screen you have, plus it does 1080 60 frames a second in your hand.
I feel like that'd be really expensive to try and figure out.
Yeah, if it can be made cheaply and they don't lose so much money making per console, and everything's perfect on the TV screen and like the handheld, then I don't see there's no point to not do that aside from getting income from both.
I think
they can get away with. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
I think they can get away with it being like 1080p on the screen and then 4K on the TV.
Yeah,
like processing it separately.
Well, you look at what your phones can do.
Yeah,
what a phone like this could do. It could
exactly.
If the resolution's phenomenal. But I think where Nintendo kind of stands up is they were smart and went cartridge.
Yeah.
That way you can have a little like SanDisk-like memory card, put it in as a game, you're done. With Sony, I don't like the idea of having this, like CD discs.
Yeah, little discs.
Because those old PSP cartridges, like the disc inside the plastic.
I like the UMDs, Universal Media Disc.
Right. I like the idea of cartridges, something that's solid state.
Yeah, and I don't...
Put it in, you can do this and it's not going to bounce or skip or something stupid.
I don't know what it's like. The interesting thing to think about, and we haven't seen it yet, is that like most of the Nintendo games, they have a pretty basic art style. When I say basic, it's still pretty, it's still beautiful, it's stylistic, it's very solid textures. There's something that's really deep. They're not looking for realism or anything like that. Like
they're not looking to win Oscars.
Yeah, and the thing is that can a cartridge do that? You know what I mean? And that's another question they'd have to ask themselves.
Well, you look at a Blu-ray disc player.
Yeah.
As far as I remember, the single layer, it might have been the double layer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like 25 gigabytes.
Yeah.
Now you have cards that have there's a new terabyte card that came out.
One's coming out, yeah.
So you have something on there that can have all that data on.
Yeah, that's true too.
I don't think there's no reason for them.
They couldn't do it.
And actually the compression rate's going to be a hell of a lot better, I think, than trying to compress the dual layer DVD or Blu-ray.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're not going to have to worry about the lasers, reading the disc. You're going to have it as a solid state, so it should load up really fast.
Yeah. So I guess that's my biggest question with it is when Skyrim does come out on the Switch, what is it going to look like? Is it going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say cel shaded, but is it going to have somewhat of a different art style than the original? Or the texture's not going to be the same as it was on, say, Xbox 360?
Yeah. I would say, actually, that's a good question, but I think I'm more interested in the loading times. Like I was just talking about, like the discs versus the solid state cards. Is it going to load faster? Actually, looking at some gameplay of Legend of Zelda, I was actually surprised that there was loading. Like I thought now that it was going the cartridge, like loading screens weren't going to be a thing anymore. Like I thought it would just be like instantaneous.
It's so amazing about Horizon Zero Dawn. There's like the only time that you ever load is like pretty much loading in or doing fast travel. Like everything in that game, there's no block loading screens. You'll get the cutscenes in between. I'm sure there's some loading that goes behind that. And Uncharted's been doing that for years now. Yeah. But like it's just the flawless. Yeah. Like even like the oh my god. We were just talking about it too.
Oh my god.
Yeah. You were just talking about it, John. We were talking about Halo and Gears of War before the other.
Halo Wars?
Not Fade-In.
Poppin'.
Oh my goodness.
Graphic Poppin'.
Graphic Poppin'. Like you didn't really have that with Horizon either.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like if they are going to go to the handheld, they are going to have to sacrifice something. And again, I do not think they can break it off and be successful. If they're going to have a home console and a handheld.
I mean, it's interesting
because they're going to be competing directly with the Switch, which is already doing everything a lot of people want it to do.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that also is talking about 1 terabyte cards is how much would it cost to sell cards that can have that capacity on it versus the Blu-ray, like manufacturing a Blu-ray, which is not that much anymore. Depends on how many layers are on it, but you could have. That's why you're like saying like there's about Horizon and how well it looks, or without any skipping, popping, any of that nonsense. Yeah, I mean, coming into a handheld like that, it's interesting because you're kind of taking all this hardware, shrinking it down. I don't know. I think there's a way for it to look really nice.
I think they could. Yeah, it's just going to be like, again, I think it really comes down to like the Switch is going to be here to stay. I think it has enough popularity. I think people are talking about it enough. It's mobile. It's going to meet that fan base that plays on iPad and stuff like that as well, which is huge going forward because mobile is probably the biggest platform.
That's why
games on now.
I'm thinking if consoles going forward are going to start integrating this because, you know, are they going to want Nintendo to take hold of the whole mobile gaming? You know, because if they do come out with a PSP2 or something like that, and it doesn't have that, you know, integrating from screen to console, what are they really adding to the market? You know, you already have a Switch. You already want to, you know, if you want to dock that, you can dock it if you want. But most people that have a Switch, from what I've understand, they do like the mobile aspect of it. Like they'll go on a couch and just play mobile by themselves.
You can put them on Netflix. Or like my son can watch Lilo and Stitch for the 25th time.
Right.
And I can sit here and play the Switch, a full console game.
It's a fantastic film. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. I love Lilo and Stitch. Stitch is my boy.
It could only help the market if other, like Sony, like I would love to be able to plug in, like play Horizon and then whoop, now I have it on the go.
Yeah.
And then you can just go.
It'd be really interesting too if Sony were to do it. The one flaw that I don't know if I mentioned or not, but the one flaw was with the online side of this.
Yes.
Is that the online side of it is just not there with Nintendo right yet.
Yeah.
Like I said, we were like in order for us, me and my friends, to play Mario Kart, we were utilizing Discord, the voice chat in Discord, and then eventually we moved on to just going to voice chat on PlayStation 4. That kind of stuff is still, they got to work that out.
Well, this is all like the beta of the online because the paid version's coming out sometime August or something like that.
And then the other side of it is just like I said, we were playing some games, but we did get disconnected a few times, and which seems kind of odd if you're just playing with people that you're friends with and you're kind of connecting directly. It seems odd that you'd have so many problems, but it is something, like you said, it is in beta. We have to really see what it looks like once we start getting
and I mean that's another thing because Nintendo, they're not really, the players aren't used to being able to have this online, like this great online experience. But that's something Sony and Xbox or Microsoft nailed down.
Microsoft nailed down pretty early.
Oh,
and Sony followed. And
I hope Nintendo has something planned for their online presence though, because
that's the thing too. I mean, they have this awesome console here that's going to have those awesome games that we know and love, but what's going to happen when their online sucks?
Yeah, and the other thing with the online is that if they're trying to tether some of the matchmaking features and the online features, tethering it to your cell phone, so then you're skipping signal to your phone and your phone skipping signal to either a Wi-Fi hotspot or whatever the case may be. Seems like it's a lot to travel back and forth.
And I feel like
you can hook this up to home Wi-Fi and just play online, no problem. But if you're out and about and you're trying to hook it up to your phone for an internet spot, then I don't know how that's going to look like, and I don't know how solid it's going to be for a connection.
Parents are going to be very angry when they have to pay those high bills.
It's evidently the online's only going to be $20. Supposedly, that was confirmed.
I mean, $20 for garbage online is still a waste of $20.
It's true.
Also, getting a free game that you're not going to be able to keep.
Yeah. So Nintendo needs to just dial that back and give us an ass.
Take it back.
But to answer the question again, I think final thoughts with this is just like it's going to be here to stay. I think this is going to set the standard for some, and I really do feel like Sony is going to try something along this line.
Yeah.
And I just, again, if they're going to do it, they have to go all in. Mm-hmm. I feel like if they're going to actually be successful with it and make it a viable option for home console and portable, just like Switch is now, bring those awesome IPs that we know and love, and I think it will work. Yeah. But if they're going to be like, oh, we're going to try this out for a little bit, but we're going to keep our PS4 home console going, or PS5, whatever the case may be, like, they keep splitting their studios, they keep splitting their efforts, and it hasn't paid off yet. Yeah. You look at where VR is and everything else like that, you're not seeing the payoff because they're trying to focus, I don't want to say on gimmicks, but they're focusing on multiple projects, and not one has really taken off.
Right.
Move, VR, Vita,
Yeah.
The only thing that's stuck is their home console and the studios that make games for their home console.
And I like the Vita, but PlayStation doesn't like the Vita.
Yeah.
Like, it has some good games, but a lot of its flagship games, like Gravity Rush, are being ported to
ported PS4, yep.
So, and they're not really marketing Vita games anymore, and I don't think they're even in stores.
The only time you hear about Vita games anymore is if it's like an addition to. Like, it's this indie title that's coming out, or this like Japanese RPG that's coming out, and not only is it on PS4, but it's also on the PlayStation Vita, and you hear about it usually at PSX every year. They'll announce some Vita titles that are cross-play, cross-buy, or whatever the case may be.
I think before the Switch, you had the mobile market kind of taking over everything. Everyone was kind of down in there.
Yeah.
So a lot
cell
of
phones, iPads.
they're probably looking at the PS Vita like, oh, okay, well, everyone's kind of in their phones, so let's just kind of do that. But now that this is out and it's very successful, they might be looking at it a different way, be like, oh, well, hey, there's a bright idea.
The big buying portion, the big buying part for this, or like even a lot of kids, Minecraft is on this thing. So not only do you have it on a mobile Minecraft full game that is now on here with special Nintendo stuff.
Mario
yeah.
version.
But you have the Joy-Cons, the actual controllers and stuff like that they can take with you. So it's a pretty big grab for the Switch.
See, picture a PSP2 or a PlayStation version where you have something similar like this, only 1080p, 60 frames a second. You can hook up your PS4 controllers to it.
Yeah, and that's the idea.
On it.
It would just be the same idea.
Yeah.
Like just where there's a Pro controller, you would get the DualShock.
But as far as this goes with the Switch, it's going to be around to stay. It's the new popular thing, I think.
Hard to find.
Well, hard to find, but I think...
Unless you're paying for like $400 or $500 bundles.
Yeah, that's true. But I think this is going to be the new... I hope this is the new standard. I hope the systems do that, because it's a nice addition. Like, there's sometimes I want to be here, hanging out with my wife, watching a movie,
doing a podcast,
watching a show,
playing Mario Kart,
doing multitasking,
not even paying attention to what we're supposed to be doing.
Sometimes when you have to use the bathroom, I don't want to have to that pause button. I just want to be like, whoa, sweet.
Exactly.
Continuing my journey.
That was the origin of the console. One of the designers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, he had to take his dev kit into the bathroom.
If only I could take my Wii with me to the bathroom.
I think that he did. Either way,
probably
he did.
Who's he?
Oh.
Some generic Nintendo
Mario. We'll call them Mario and Zelda.
Whoever had a Wii.
Anyway, final thoughts.
I think it's here to stay. I think you're absolutely right. I think so. What we talked about, I think Sony's going to try something similar.
I hope so. That'd be interesting. I like the little competition,
and it's going to be interesting. Like, what happens if Scorpio doesn't take off like they want to? So does it come back down to a rivalry between Sony and Nintendo for the console war becomes Nintendo?
If Scorpio doesn't do well, they're going to slap a screen on the Scorpio and be like, "Here, it's mobile now. Take it."
No, I think it'll just be like, oh, we're just going to go PC now. We're going to put Halo and all of our franchises on PC, and that's how you can play it.
But, Jonah, any final thoughts, or are you done?
I like the Switch. I think some of its ways to play, like the sideways controller, needs some work. Maybe a little more grips. Yes.
Oh, yeah, that is a good point. I really brought it up, because like, I don't mind playing it with this little thing. It's, for those that are listening to the audio version, it's the little cradle for the Joy-Cons. And I do like the grips on the back. I just wish there was a separate connector type thing or another accessory where you can put the actual grips on the back of the Switch, just so, like, your fingers fit a little bit more comfortably when you're playing. Yeah,
because initially lifting it up, it was nice, but I could figure after a little while, you're going to be like, I don't know, it's going to get sweaty.
You're going to
start
your
spazzing
fingers,
out. It's
so I'm sure they'll make that for me because I requested it now. So
that's true.
Just look at a store near you.
Hey, Reggie, take note.
Yeah, Reggie.
But guys,
Reggie,
what do you think? Let us know down in the comments.